is using municipal funds to have an event. I think particularly at this time in our country and in our world, it's important to be inclusive.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is a councilwoman from the state of New Jersey, Charlene Story, who resigned after the town renamed once again the town Christmas celebration, lighting of the tree, etc., as a Christmas celebration as opposed to something generic. We also have a situation, as I alluded to also in the beginning of the show, in New York City, Brooklyn, a Korean principal has banned the pledge, banned Thanksgiving, banned Christmas, you name it. And this is typical of what's going on all over the country. Joining us now is Bill Donohue, president of the Catholic League, Newsmax contributor and author of The Catholic Advantage. Hello, Bill.
How you doing, Steve?
All right, so you wrote a piece, Should Schools Celebrate Christmas?
Absolutely they should. And actually, I want to give credit to Bill Clinton, who back in 1992 commissioned his Secretary of Education, Robert Riley, to sit down with the Attorney General and come up with some guidelines. They were actually quite sensible. The problem wasn't with President Clinton. The problem is that school superintendents have not been paying attention to them. Just today, the Catholic League, for the 20th year, put up a life-size nativity scene on public property called Central Park. 58th and 59th Street on 5th Avenue, right in front of the plaza. Right behind us is the world's largest menorah. What people don't understand is this. Number one, if you want a religious symbol like a menorah or a nativity scene, pay for it with private dollars, as we do. Number two, don't choose the lawn outside City Hall where it could be argued that the government has given endorsement. Choose what's called a public forum in law. In other words, a place where you have rallies and concerts and art displays. They can't now engage in viewpoint discrimination and stop you. That's why Catholics and Jews get it right every year in New York. And all over the country, there's been so much misinformation, indeed even disinformation, knowingly distorting the truth on this subject.
But what about, look what's happening at the school in Brooklyn that I mentioned.
That's amazing. The Pledge of Allegiance, as a veteran, I'm offended by that you don't say the Pledge of Allegiance. And unfortunately, there are some people in our city council in New York who would agree with that.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, these people really should find another home. North Korea, I think, would be very welcome and receptive to these people. But they're in the wrong country, quite frankly.
And what about, you point out the University of Tennessee, for instance. Why don't you talk about that? They're
yes.
banning Christmas.
University of Tennessee. Now, they've been backing off because I wrote to all the state legislatures to deal with education there, and there was a revolt on the part of Representative Duncan, who's a good man, and as well as a number of the guys in the state legislature. They wanted to ban Christmas. They said you can't have a celebration of religion or culture. What world do these people come? I mean, I don't understand this. They have Black History Month. I'm not opposed to that, but that's the celebration of black culture. Christians don't have a culture. Jews don't have a culture. Look, they began to walk this thing back. The guy has been, quote, counseled. He's been disciplined. The guy who's in charge of this. He's been pulled back from this. And guess what? The guidelines were taken down. So we won on that. James Madison University in Virginia says you can't sing a religious theme song because it's a state-sponsored school. We looked into other state schools, such as University of Virginia and other places. They have concerts with sacred music. So what people do, sometimes it's based out of ignorance, and sometimes it's based out of lies.
Right.
Either way, we've got to correct this situation. We go through it every year. But the good news is this. More people are taking it into their own hands in a nonviolent way and protesting. Wadena, Minnesota, tiny little town. They wouldn't let them put up the nativity scene.
Right.
Guess what? There are more nativity scenes all over the place now than ever before.
All right. Trump's skyrocketed in the national poll, the
Yes.
latest national poll, to over 40%, trouncing Ted Cruz in that national poll from Monmouth, which when Trump was behind in the Monmouth, Iowa poll, Trump said, I never heard of Monmouth. I'm sure now he's heard of it. And this is after his proposal to ban Muslims from entering the country. Where do you fall on that?
He's wrong. I mean, I'm against the idea of choosing any religion and saying that you don't belong. He makes a universal statement. I can't put up with that as a Catholic leader. If you want to say that everybody has to be vetted, if you want to do something of that nature, that's fine. If you even want to say people from the Middle East in general have to be vetted twice, I'm okay with that. You can't single out people on the basis of religion just because some of them are bad eggs. I disagree with Trump on that.
And of course, you know, we talk about the war on Christmas over and over, and the left says there's no war on Christmas.
No.
Obama, you know, at the prayer breakfast, he trashes Christianity.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you saw, it's going to come up in my Gimme 5 in depth. They had this female activist rabbi who talked about, at the Hanukkah party, who talked about Black Lives Matter, who talked about the Palestinians, who talked about nuclear waste, who talked about everything except Hanukkah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Catholics and Jews both have them in their own ranks. It's really.
But Obama chose that person.
He chose that person, just as he did when the Pope came in.
Yes.
He chose people who were Catholic renegades. I mean, nuns who are in open rebellion against the Catholic Church. That's who Obama is, though. This is not a mistake.
No.
This is exactly the way he believes, which is why, I mean, his lassitude, the way he reacts to what's happening to Christians and Jews in the Middle East, he's more upset with the backlash against Muslims than he is about Christians being beheaded by some of these savages.
All right, Bill, feel good, stay well, appreciate it. Coming up next, C. Edmund Wright will be here on the Malzberg panel along with Jane Velez Mitchell. We have a lot to talk about, including the latest polls, Bo Bergdahl, and much, much more. Malzberg panel is next on Newsmax Television.